Today's video is sponsored by Surfshark VPN, of whom more in a bit. I was browsing the social medias the other day when I encountered a rather old discussion of the best and worst stations in the UK, and one of the opinions I saw expressed was that Berrylands was the worst. I've had cause to use Berrylands in the past and it's never seemed all that bad. Not great, but I can think of far worse ones out there. I'm not a fan of Birmingham New Street, for instance. Still, I hear people describing Berrylands as dreary, inaccessible, boring, and smelly. So let's have a look at Berrylands. Now, you might not have heard about it, it's pretty obscure, so thank you for clicking on this video. It's between Surbiton and New Malden, which are both on the old South Western Main Line and are both pretty busy stations. But despite many trains passing through, only two of them an hour in each direction actually stop here. The line through here was built in 1838, but the station wouldn't come along until 95 years later, in 1933. Before that, the area was farmland used for dairy farming. In fact, this building in Surbiton commemorates that period of history. This website describes the area's dairy farming history as amazing. Obviously, the AI they used to write that article has a different opinion to most people on what constitutes amazing. In the 19th and 20th century, London really began to expand, engulfing various outlying towns and villages and turning them into suburbs. What happened at Berrylands was the Kingston Bypass, a major road that opened in 1927. Also opened were the eyes of developers to the idea that the land around here would be absolutely dandy for commuter housing, with the bypass providing quick transport for the motorist. But not everyone has a car, of course, and that was even more so in the 1930s. So the developers, H.C. Jones and Company, approached the Southern Railway about adding a station to their nearby line to serve this new suburb. Now, I hear people say that Berrylands smells bad, but you know what really stinks? Content restrictions online. And that's why I'm glad to say that today's video is once again sponsored by Surfshark VPN. So I was recently looking for this obscure 90s TV series, and the only place I could find it was on MTV's American website, but I am in the UK. No problem. I used Surfshark VPN to virtually change my location, and now MTV thinks I'm in America. Surfshark has servers in over 100 countries, so I can do this for basically anywhere. It also has the more practical purpose of getting around regional censorship and enabling me to pick up region-specific bargains when shopping online. Plus, of course, Surfshark's encryption gives me protection from snooping, sneaky-type people while I surf the web. Do people still say surf the web? Oh my goodness, I am so old. Anyway, if you follow the link in the description below or scan this QR code and enter the exclusive code JAGO, you can get an extra 4 months for free, which is pretty great. Where was I? Oh yes, I was in Berrylands. Oh. The developers covered 90% of the cost, but they seem to have cheaped out somewhat. The station was fairly minimal. 2 timber platforms with timber waiting shelters. No bay platforms, no sidings, no facilities for goods or parcels. It appears that the Southern didn't have much expectation of this place becoming a major suburb a la Surbiton. Perhaps they thought they might upgrade things if passenger numbers justified it. Trains were electric from the start. The Southern was very proud of their network of electrified commuter lines. Housing grew up around the station, along with a small parade of shops. 1930s suburban development tends to divide opinions. Some see it as aspirational and aesthetically pleasing, others see it as the epitome of mundane Middle England. Whichever view you take, there's plenty of it around Berrylands. There's also a decent amount of green space in the local area, which is, of course, always welcome. One problem that rather makes itself apparent in the summer is the smell. Nearby is the Hogsmill Water Treatment Works, which is notorious. It takes its name, of course, from Hogsmill School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. I'm kidding, the Hogsmill is actually this river. In the 1970s, the smell of sewage was so bad that the area was nicknamed SMELLYLANDS. If you were planning to sell your house around here, the advice was to hold off until the winter. These days the filter beds are covered, so things are nowhere near as bad as they used to be, but I can confirm from personal experience, while filming this, that in hot weather the station is not very pleasant. Speaking of the station, by the late 1960s the timber buildings were looking rather shabby. In 1969 they were replaced with CLASP structures. CLASP was an acronym. It stood for Consortium of Local Authorities Special Program, and described a kind of building system that used prefabricated components. It was a bit like a construction toy. You could put the different kinds of component together in different configurations to make whatever building you needed. The southern region of British Railways loved the concept. It was modern, it was efficient, and, best of all, it was cheap. What it was not was exciting. Berrylands station retains its CLASP buildings. Many other such stations have since been rebuilt. There's a ticket office and a waiting room at street level, although I have to say I've never seen either of them actually open. The platforms are still timber, although they have been extended with concrete in recent years to take longer trains. There's no footbridge, so if you should need to cross the line, you have to exit the station, go through the underpass, and re-enter on the other side. Admittedly, I can't think of many reasons you'd need to cross the line, given that there's only one service that stops there. The station is not very good in accessibility terms. It has stairs, but no lifts. The only trains that stop here are those going to and from Hampton Court, although, as I say, many more pass through, which kind of makes Berrylands an honorary Hampton Court branch station, despite being on the main line. And this, in turn, may put it in the running for some improvements in the future. It's in the plans for Crossrail 2. Much like Crossrail 1, which you would know as the Elizabeth line, Crossrail 2 would take over a number of suburban lines and route them onto a new line that would run through London and out the other side. A number of the branches in southwest London are planned to be incorporated into this, and the Hampton Court branch is one of them. Berrylands is specifically mentioned in the plans. The stations, where applicable, would be upgraded and made accessible, and the train services on the Hampton Court branch would double from 2 an hour in each direction to 4 an hour, which would be a pretty excellent service. When, or even if this will happen, is more of a mystery. The document I'm working with here is from 2015, and I haven't found anything more recent. A lot has changed since 2015. The Elizabeth line has demonstrated that the concept works, but the pandemic has knocked TfL's finances back a lot. So I wouldn't hold your breath for improvements at Berrylands. I would hold your breath if it's summer because of the aforementioned sewage works. Well, I do hope you enjoyed today's video. If so, please do leave a like and consider subscribing for more. Having investigated Berrylands, I'm still not convinced that it's the worst in the UK or even in London. If you can think of one that's worse, please do let me know in the comments section. Maybe I'll do a video about it, possibly out of some subconscious need to punish myself. I would like as ever to thank my donors on Ko-fi, on Patreon and here on YouTube for your generous support. You are the covers to my filter beds. I would also like to thank Surfshark VPN for sponsoring this video. Click on the link in the description below to take advantage of their generous offer. And I will see you all again very soon. Cheerio.